Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, truly an honor and a pleasure to be here and serve you. This afternoon we have a phenomenal gentleman that's got some truly amazing technology that can reshape and reshape the world as we know it. Much to our regret as a society, we've spent a lot of time suppressing it and depressing it and repressing it and oppressing it when we should be impressed with it. Through many toils, trials, and dangers, this man has come. I've had the honor and the pleasure of only knowing him for about 16 or 18 years. In those few short years, I've had the wonderful, wild opportunity to see internal combustion runs on everything from pickle juice or urine to Coca-Cola, soda, oh, by the way, and gasoline too, and water. They actually threw the gas in there too. But Paul went through a time when the suppression and repression and oppression and depression was so bad that they felt he was such a threat that they incarcerated him. And when they couldn't incarcerate him legally under criminal charges, they've tried a different way. Somebody who thinks that an internal combustion engine can be run on part or mostly water must be delusional or, insane. And to think that somebody might want to take that kind of technology away from him, he must be paranoid. So this man must be paranoid delusional, so let's lock him up. Oops, not. Quite the opposite, regrettably. But he's here now. This is a chance to spread the good news of GEET and the technology that can reshape the whole world. It is my personal honor and pleasure to introduce to you Paul Pantone.
Thank you. We're going to try to keep things as speeded up as we can here. Okay. Sorry we're getting started a few minutes late. During the last 31 years, it's been real hard for me to be able to teach people the GEET, because we started out, when people asked me, how does it work and why does it work? I said, well, the exhaust goes this way and the fuel goes that way, and we've got a rod in the middle and it spins around it, and it works. It took a lot more convincing for scientists in the patent office to be able to issue me a patent. I had to explain how it worked in terms that they could relate to. I got every book I could at every library. I read through everything on science and couldn't find anything in the world to explain what I was doing. I then brought scientists in from all around the country and asked if they could help me. Okay. That's okay. One of the interesting phenomenon that we discovered, but it wasn't in the very beginning, it was much later, was that there was a north and a south on these rods that go in the center that allow the fuel to speed by it while the heat exchange process is occurring. We call this the plasma reactor rod. When you take the plasma reactor rod and you check it, on Kirlian photography, you'll see a beautiful blue aura all the way around it, like a healthy human being. When you check it with a compass, you find north is at the top and south is at the bottom of the rod. Now, I just pointed out north is up. In all the biblical teachings, in every Bible that I read, they always referred to north as being the heavens, north being the stars, north being where the craft, the ship, would come from. It came from the north. Well, they didn't have compasses back then, so they must have meant up. And when you check the rod and you find out north is up and south is down, that's pretty interesting. But then when you turn the rod upside down, you check it again, and north is up and south is down, just like your body. For many thousands of years, Tibetans knew that if you were not healthy, if you would sleep with your head to the north, you'll quit having cramps. You'll reduce the number of migraine headaches. You will not be as confused. They also knew that if you hung upside down and let your head touch the wet earth, wet sand, wet ground, or wet lawn, it would allow your head to become south and your feet would become north. These inversion boards, after many Americans went over there and saw them, were interpreted to mean that you just had to be hanging upside down, but that isn't what was really meant. You have to be grounded. We're not grounded. And if we're not grounded, there's no healthy aura. Your aura becomes weaker and weaker. You all need to do the same thing. Sleep with your head to the north, that'll help. Walk around barefooted in wet soil or out on your lawn once in a while, or your feet are not going to ground you. In Tibet, you won't find too many psychiatrists, because when a person's feeling confused, you simply hang upside down 20 to 30 minutes with your head touching the ground, and then stand back up upright. Just realign your head to the north again, just like the rod. So far, in the last 31 years, I've made 179 discoveries in science that we can't find in science books. If you came to my classes back in 1990s, you'd have found we had about a dozen pictures. We had a dozen discoveries. Now, we can't put them all in one binder. When I first started teaching the technology, I kept it extremely simple, which is what I'm going to do here today, in 2 to 2.5 hours. What it takes in the classroom is about 60 to 72 hours. The last class went for 70 hours. Now, keeping in mind that 13, 15 months ago I got released, I had been in a wheelchair for almost 2.5 years because I have a broken left ankle that didn't heal right. Every time I step down, bones come together, pinching a little meat. You get used to it after a while. The other foot, they put the big toe together with some hardware that went in wrong. Every time I take a step, it tries to push out the side. I don't have time to make it a 2-week class, and most of you couldn't afford to be there for 2 weeks. 1 week is the most a person can really comfortably afford to stay at a hotel or however they're going to be there or visiting with friends. So we've made the days a little bit longer in school. Instead of 8 hours a day, we go 10 or 12. We take the first 3 days at my school, you will learn what is in this book. You'll go home with a copy of this book, so you will have this for the rest of your lives for you and your family to pass down. It is not to be copied and sold. It's not to be copied and transferred to anybody. It is your personal training book and science book. If you come in as a student or a dealer, you get the book. We don't teach just GEET. When you start looking through this book, it starts tying into medical fields, nature, controlling hurricanes and tornadoes. It goes into a lot of variety of different things that we've learned and discovered. But we learned it all from GEET by studying all the different natural phenomena. We do not use any outside electrical field to create it. It's all done naturally. All the other people, MIT and others that are trying to come up with a better mousetrap, they're all using outside electrical sources. Ours doesn't require it. The rod we use can be made of glass, brass, aluminum, copper, steel, whatever you want to use. They all work, and they all have a human aura. When the fuel is burned properly, and they're the right size and the right length, you can have more oxygen coming out the tailpipe than there is in this room right now, if you're getting a perfect burn. But now we come into something where our great government doesn't want that. And when I say our great government, I should have said governments. No government anywhere in the world seems to be happy about lowering the price of fuels or the consumption of fuels, although they claim they are. We teach why all the way through the school this has taken so long to get to where it is. I tried to get this out many times over the years. 3 times we had products stacked up and ready to go. At one point, I got a 15,000-foot shop that used to be the Salt Lake Community College auto shop. We had 2 classrooms set up for 30 students at a time could come in. Everything was ready to go. We had all the benches in, forklifts, scissor lifts. We could pick up everything from a little car to a motorhome in there. We went to Colorado for a show, came back 5 days later, and everything we owned was gone. We were ready to start putting them on cars. And for some reason, there were some people that just didn't want us to do that. We got ready to do it a second time at a different location. All we needed to get started was a few hundred carburetors, lawnmower carburetors that anybody can go to the store and buy. When we tried to place an order for 250 of them, they said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Pantone, we can no longer sell you carburetors." Wait a minute, you're a dealer. You're in the business of selling lawnmower parts. Sell me the parts I want. We can't. We'll lose our license as dealers. So we had to switch directions, get fuel injectors ready to go. We got all the aluminum blocks cut, new air intake. Everything was done, ready to go on that. We go down to the auto store. "I'm sorry, we don't want to sell you injectors. You bring in 8, we'll give you 8. But we're not going to sell injectors to anybody that can't give us an exchange." That's unheard of. We called around to see if we get injectors even from wrecking yards so we could recondition them. They said, "I'm sorry, but some of the big injector companies got a hold of us, and they're going to buy them all back for $8, $10 a piece. And they don't even want them. But they'll pay us to not take them out of the cars and make sure the engines are destroyed with the injectors in them." So again, someone did not want us to go forward. We have simplified the system so much now, we started getting dealers together. We're only going to have 100 dealers in the U.S., and they will set up the entire market. They are the ones going to be manufacturing their own parts. They'll be selling in their communities. But the territory isn't just where they live. There are no territorial limits in the U.S. other than U.S. You may have friends in New York working under you, and you live in California. You may have other friends in Las Vegas or someplace else working under you, under your license. As many people as you can control is the number of people you can have working for you. You're also allowed to sublicense for other people under you who won't be able to buy from the other dealers. They have to buy from you, and then you buy from other dealers. But keeping it to a base of just 100 people, that gives the total control of that market to them. Now, to protect my dealers, so the government doesn't go after them like they did me, because the government isn't afraid of them, they're afraid of what I can do. If they ever come back after me, I have no tie to them. Our tie was broke when they walked out of the classroom, unless they want to call me for something or need advice or need a little guidance on how to modify something. They are on their own. They can work together as a team. They set their own rules. We gave them some guidelines to go by. We teach them at school how to put it together, how to test it, how to calibrate it, but based on what we know. What we knew in 1990 was the rod fits in there. We didn't know it had to have a bullet end or a cupped end. We had no idea what was happening as the fuel went through, because common sense to me would say, if I have a pipe here and a rod in the middle of it, the air coming through here is going to go straight through the tube. Boy, was I wrong. We put 3 little tips on it so that it would hold it in the dead center from each end. When we did that, it restricted the rod from spinning, but the air would spin through, but not very fast. We then put a rod in one day without the tips, and that rod spins at about 2,000 to 3,000 RPM. When you're at full speed, getting a perfect burn, and you are getting 20 to 21% oxygen out the tailpipe, you've got a high-speed magnetic field in there. So the air going through is not going through straight, it is spinning. But it's also expanding, and it's ripping the atomic structure of the original fuel completely apart. A particle of sulfur going into that chamber has an atomic weight of 32. Once it gets through the chamber, it becomes 32 particles of hydrogen. Or it could be 8 particles of helium. So for many years, hundreds of years, they've said carbon in, carbon out. Well, that doesn't apply anymore. In physics, it is atomic mass in, atomic mass out. You have to know the atomic weight of the fuel you're using to be able to calculate what the outcome is going to be. I have sat with many physicists now from around the world. About 15% of our students are scientists. We had a physicist in the class 2 weeks ago, and on the 5th day or 6th day he was there, he was sitting there laughing, going, everything I learned in the last 20 years just went down the drain. He said, I thought I understood physics. I understood how things moved and how they functioned, but it's what you've physically shown me and let me build with my own 2 hands defies science. Well, I have a problem with saying we are defying science. I don't believe we are. I think we're coming up with a better definition of things that have never been explained. I sat in the back of the room the other day when Mr. Searle was up here talking, and as he was discussing his product that cost him 3,500 pounds years ago in the 40s, now I'm sitting back here thinking, yeah, we do that for about $300 in parts. The same type of field, it pulls a vacuum around it, it's doing the same basic characteristics, but he doesn't have a book to show that to him when he's learning it. A lot of these toroidal fields and the other energy things you've seen here, they do understand bits and pieces of how they go together. To my knowledge, I'm the only one who is trying to chart each and every movement of each particle and why. I want to know why. I cannot be in that laboratory and tell you what the best shape is for a rod until I've tested all the different possible shapes. Is it going to be 45 degree, 30 degree, 60 degree? I have no idea until we test it all. We have found some basic parameters that work, and they work very well. But for me to honestly tell you there's a definite, this is the only way it can be done, no. I found that there's as many ways to build a GEET as there are pieces of equipment on this planet. If you go out and look at Aaron's and Amanda's engines out there, and you look at the other people's engines out there, they don't look the same. It's obvious they were built by different people. And a small minor adjustment might bring it from 50% improved mileage to double. A minute change. You might change just the thickness of that rod by a 64th of an inch and make that much of a change. We do not have all of the documentation because the great state of Utah, when they had me detained, confiscated 31 years of research, phone numbers, contracts. Inventors from around the world have come to me and asked me to help them with their products, or in some cases just said, here, this is yours. Take it to market. I can't do it. Well, if any of you know any other inventors, you'll recognize the fact that some of us have what we call inventor, what I've titled inventor syndrome. And it's a lot like being a mom. You put your heart into something and you finally give it birth and it works. And you don't want anybody touching your baby. That makes it hard. It's hard to get that baby out there when you're afraid to trust somebody. They might drop it. They might hurt it. They might try to steal it. You become emotionally attached to what you're doing. A few times, even though I tried not to become emotionally attached, I did. I have a drive. I want to see this get out to mankind. And when I was offered a great deal of money, $3 billion to some people, would have been very acceptable. It wasn't to me. I may never make $3 billion on the technology. I may never make $300 million on the technology. But it's going to get out to mankind. And I want to make sure that it's there for our grandkids and their grandkids, and they understand why it works. When I was doing my research, trying to find out why it worked and see if there was any supporting documents, I'm looking through all these new books, and finally, one of the professors I was talking to at UCLA said, Paul, don't go to the new bookstore. Go find some old bookstores. If you don't believe me, he said, go down and buy yourself an encyclopedia set from the 50s. And he said, look up the American Vacuum Society. Look up Nikola Tesla. Look up some of these things you're asking me about. They used to be in the books. He said, it's a dumbing down of America. We're told what we can teach and how we can teach it. We see stuff come to the colleges all the time. But if it's more than a 5% change, it scares us, we're not allowed to do it, and we're controlled by the oil companies and the government. So, yeah, there have been many articles where people posted some things on the internet and then removed it because of pressure, where they've gotten much more than triple the runtime or mileage on things. You got a lot of political pressure there. Yahoo, on a couple of occasions, have pulled down entire websites and chat lines saying, nope, this is gone, we can't have this kind of conversation. Some of it is because they put things up there that were illegal, improper, or in some cases against an oil company or car company. If they don't want it up there, it's gone. What we try to teach at GEET is the most simple way to build it. And then how to apply this knowledge to furnaces, boilers, generators, anything you want to put it on that uses fuel. If you go to our website, you'll find, I believe my son has put up some of the videos, where they've got a helicopter over in France. It only gets 30% more distance than it did before. Not too shabby. There are approximately, by the best count we can get, somewhere around 5,000 vehicles in Europe running around GEET and different versions of it. Our school in GEET right now is only being taught in Dutch. Hopefully later this year it will be opening in other languages so we can get people over there on board like we are here. The products here, just in the last 24 hours we were able to certify that we have engines here that can be bought now by the public. So if you don't want to build one but you want to play with it, go out, in 30 minutes we'll go outside there and run some of the engines. If you want to buy one of the engines you're looking at, ask the person, as soon as they're done filming it, go over and ask them, what are the details? How do I buy one? I don't sell anything except education. The more I can teach you, the better your life and your children's lives are going to be. So I don't limit it to just GEET technology. For some people, we wear glasses. And I'll tell you how to get a hold of a place where within a week you can correct your vision. You don't need glasses again or surgery or anything else. We'll tell you how to get better, healthier products that you grow yourself. I will help some of you if you need the insulating paint. I'll help with any product you can imagine if it is a healthy product. But I don't stick my finger in the middle of it to make a profit. I will point you in the direction of where you can go to get it. When people come up to me, and they knew that for many years Molly and I had health products. We used to carry the purple plates, the light pane wands, all kinds of products. When the Attorney General destroyed my marriage with Molly and we're divorced, I decided I wasn't going to carry health products anymore. I didn't need to make the money off health. I'd rather give it away. So when people come to me and they need health knowledge, I do it individually, and I'll say, you know, if it was me and I had that problem, I'd get a hold of this guy. I don't need to make commissions off helping people to get better health. I teach. I want to write science books. I now have picked up 3 more inventions this week from other inventors that were here that didn't want to market their product after hearing what I've gone through and knowing what they've already started going through. So 3 products were turned over to me. I'm not going to mention which ones. But these are products that can be coupled directly to a GEET right now and help them become 2 to 3 times more efficient on the electrical output. We have had Mr. Mark Roden come out and take a look at it for a minute. I explained to him that we have a toroidal field, electrical field coming off the top of the unit. And he went out to do some testing with Amanda and Aaron, and when I saw what they were doing, I realized that that test couldn't be done on that piece, but since they were already testing and we only had a limited amount of time, that was fine. But lo and behold, as they were moving it down the side of the engine, it killed the GEET from working. It was able to pull somehow all the energy from the GEET out of the GEET. The minute that electrical energy that was going into GEET stopped, it killed it. So there is testing in that area that I'm going to be jumping on immediately to find out how do we harness the area, how do we intensify it. Just moving something by a piece of metal shouldn't affect it that much, but it did. We've also found when you're moving an ohm meter by that exhaust pipe at times, I've seen it jump as high as 240 ohms, or ohms. We've seen voltage tests where we've had 240, 280 volts just on the outside metal of the exhaust pipe at the north end. We've seen so many variables that we can't go back and get my 31 years of research. So right now at my ranch in Oklahoma, we built a research section right in the house. We have good, good security going in right now so that I can work on it whenever I'm awake. And within a few weeks, I'll start telling people this is the ultimate design for the rod. This is the best one we found, and here's our test results. We're going to be trying all the different types of metals, different polishing methods. We want to know what is the best tube. We want to know everything we can about GEET. We're going to be trying it since we know north is up. We don't know, will it work if it's 7 degrees or 10 degrees one way or another, north, south, east, or west? Until we try that, we won't know. We may find that one position is better than all the rest. There is no one else I know of in the world trying to do these tests. We have had some help from universities, BYU, University of Berlin, University in Stuttgart, where they were doing some testing with GEET, and 3 of the universities got back in touch with us, and also France, and they showed that there's a new element coming out of this unit before it goes to the combustion chamber, that once it goes through the GEET reactor, it has an atomic weight of 2.4, which is between helium and hydrogen. It doesn't explode, it implodes. For 23 years, we thought that the piston comes up compressing the GEET gas, and then a spark ignites it going down. Yet while we were running the engine, sometimes the spark plug wires would be loose or broken. The piston comes up and goes back down fine. We got full power, not a problem. If the spark plug is good and you're getting a good spark, but we didn't understand how we could get an engine to rev 300% increase in speed. In a lawnmower engine, normally you get 3,600 RPM on these Briggs & Strattons and Tecumsehs. We've had some tests hooked up to our analyzers where we pegged out over 12,000 RPM. And when you get up to 12,000 RPM, all the real mechanics that know what that engine can do usually hit the floor or run out the door. You're scared to death they're going to be waiting for pieces of metal to go through them. Well, I'm a 9th grade dropout. I know how to build homes. I'm good at it. I can build furniture. I didn't know anything about engines. I didn't know they should blow up. So I'm sitting there revving the thing up, having fun. I realized the machine I had just wouldn't read any higher. Finally, a few of the mechanics explained to me that at that speed, you should have been putting parts through the ceiling. One of the universities up in Cambridge in Canada had put a crystal head on top of the engine, a test head, so they could look into the cylinder as it was detonating. They had a high-speed camera hooked to the computer, and they were filming what they were doing. They got so excited looking at the footage, they didn't look at it and stop frame as to where the piston was every split second there. They were only looking at it from the top without looking at the rest of the digital information. And what they saw was in the dead center of the piston, every single stroke, there was a glow that went out went in. Went out, went in. But every single time it was in the dead center of the piston. They said that would explain why when we're running great big engines, we could run a 350 Chevy down to 70 RPM and there's no vibration. Well, what they didn't know until 5 years later, when one of those researchers went back into the computer and was looking at it all, he was looking at all the data and the position of the piston. He called me back and said, we made a mistake. You are not exploding in the center of the piston. I said, what are you talking about? There's no vibration. He said, no. You're imploding. The second pressure is put on that gas and it gets to be an intense enough pressure, it implodes the piston upwards, creating a power stroke. Once it gets up there, and it's now forced into a different gas, it then self-detonates from the dead center and goes back downward. You're picking up a full power stroke there. Then, as it's pushing back up to exhaust, because you're blocking most of the exhaust pipe, it's creating a vacuum venturi effect, pulling the piston up to the top. So you have 3 out of the 4 power strokes are power strokes. We thought there was only 1 power stroke after detonation. The piston comes down and the rest of the engine is working to get it back to fire again. When 3 out of the 4 movements are power strokes, you've got a lot of extra energy and you can rev the engine up a lot better. When there's no wobble on the piston from sparking all over the place, pushing it in all directions for the wrist pin to keep bending and twisting, the wear on the engine is minimal. We've had some engines, we've got over 10 times the life out of the engine based on what the manufacturer says that engine should last. So we've made some major technological breakthroughs. But how do we get this out to the people? GM, Ford, Chrysler didn't want it. Oil companies aren't interested. A month and a half ago, we were in San Francisco. I had already sent letters to BP saying, hey, we can help you with the oil spill. Suck up the oil and water, take it inland, let's set up generators, we can run it all day long. We can set up a furnace out there, just burn it. To a GEET furnace, there'll be 0 pollution. They said, no, thank you. When NBC News heard that, they said, show us the engine, we want to put you on the news. So we ran it for them on crude oil and salt water. Made the news that night. It's up on our website. We have taken challenges from all over. It has been a tremendous pleasure for me to be able to show people when they think it's impossible, that it's not impossible. You just have to think a little bit outside that box. Sorry. I went to an attorney's office in Salt Lake. I told him the Attorney General was coming after me and I wanted to get a defense budget going, and this gentleman told me if I could prove to him that it worked, he'd want to back it, and he'd help me out. I said, great. I went over to his office. His office is this building in here, and I left my car parked just a few feet away. We ran the engine right there on his lawn. And where we ran the engine, I only ran it for about 20 minutes, and he was very hesitant about wanting to make a decision even that day or that week, but he was going to consider it. I told him, I said, well, let me know after you've considered it what your answer is. He wanted me to leave the engine with him. I said, no. You make a commitment, I'll make a commitment of some kind, but no, I'm not leaving the prototype with you. So I loaded it back up in my van and drove off. A couple hours later, he had gone and his sons were still at the shop there. And FAA pulled up right out here in the street. Now, his building is an indoor hangar that can house about 4 or 5 planes, plus a nice big office building, 2 stories tall, filled with beautiful things. But they started walking around the front yard in the building there, looking all over, and they came out with some electronic equipment. Kids came out and said, "Can we help you?" And they said, "No, this is not your business, this is FAA." I said, "Well, is something wrong?" They said, "Yeah, we're trying to figure out where 747 is." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, we're picking up a signal from a transponder on a 747 that right there at that point, there's supposed to be a 747 and there isn't one." They didn't tell me about that right then, but about a week later I got a call and they told me what happened. The following day, Salt Lake Airport again came back out with some guys that had FAA on the side of their vehicle with Colorado plates. They said they were picking up a down 747 from radar in Colorado, pinpointing that location again. It was still transmitting. The following Monday, when the attorney came back to his office, his sons had beat him to work that day. The sons saw him pulling in, and they would go running to the back and said, "Dad, whatever you do, do not admit you saw anything on that lawn last week. We don't want to be government witnesses. It could tie us up for a long time." He said, "What are you talking about?" "They think a 747 transponder is putting a signal out from where Paul ran that engine." Well, he went up front to see what was going on, and they had a couple of different types of computers and all kinds of cables running all over the place, and this one device that looked like a king-size dream catcher. And the gentleman operating it was going back and forth like this with it, and every time he'd get to the center of the area where the reactor chamber was, it would go off the chart. Beep! Going all directions, from up, down. He said, "How can anything be transmitting from thin air 16 inches off the ground? This can't be. There is no way known to science that you can transmit from nowhere." That was the first time it dawned on me that a few years before that, I had a generator at my home in California, and I'd always run it for 15, 20 minutes to charge up a few batteries and then shut it off. Within 15, 20 minutes of shutting it off, there'd be black helicopters flying over my house. Wasn't sure what they were looking for, so we always waved at them. Some people we sold a generator to at 11,000 feet in Colorado there, they had black helicopters circle their property almost every time they ran that engine. We found out that when you don't ground the GEET out, it does have a transmission. And we're not sure if it's a Black Hawk, Scorpion, or what it is, or maybe a 747. But it puts a frequency out, distress signal, and it drives them up the wall. So we make sure now everything is grounded when it goes out. We also make sure all of our students and dealers understand how to unground it for entertainment purposes. But I think we should give them the same courtesy they give us. And I think it'd be kind of fun to see them scattering in 40 different directions, going, "No, it's over here, no, it's over here, no, it's over here." Didn't know I could have that much fun controlling those guys like that. With what they put me and a lot of other inventors through, a few years back I talked to Tom Ogle, who's I was told has passed on. I got to talk with Stan Myers about his idea of running cars on water, and I said, "We've been able to run cars on water since the first one I did in 1983, but I like living and breathing. It isn't going to help mankind for me to release that right now, but it's the best insurance policy I've had to keep me alive. That if anything happens to me, my son knows, and a whole bunch of other people know, a couple of hundred of them. Go ahead and hit the send button. Send it out to every person in the world you can, and tell them to send it to everybody they can. Because if you want to take me down, I want to take the oil companies and the governments down. I think it's a fair exchange. So I don't mind wearing that red target. I'm not upset at this point for what they did to me for 3.5 years, but I think they need to pay for it. So I have, with John's help and many other people, that are here at the conference, I have gone ahead and filed a lawsuit against the state of Utah to get some of the damages back. A lot of it, there's no way to calculate or get it back. But we go on, and we get stronger. Some of the inventors that have come to me that have seen what I've gone through have said, pal, I can't do it. They don't want to lose their families like I did. Well, I'm glad I could give them the insight and wisdom to see what they're up against. If you market GEET for yourself, you can go on the internet, download the free plans. You can go to the back, buy a set from Steve. Or you can go to your local dealer and ask your local GEET dealer. Go to the GEETdealersassociation.com and tell them you want to buy a set of plans. The difference between a set of plans you buy and the free plans is the free plans were done in 1998. Back in 1998, when we had 47 discoveries. And that was the best model we knew how to build back then. We've come a long way. Those old plans will teach you how to make one that runs, but you're going to have difficulty keeping it running more than about 20 to 25 minutes. If you're paying a dealer for his health and his time, he'll walk you through all the questions you have to help you get it running to your needs. We've had a few students that came in and wrote letters when they got home. And one gentleman in Idaho, Mike West, he spent 3 days. We did a crash course. At that time, we could get away with 3 days because we didn't have that much like we do now. He went home and threw it on his Mitsubishi Eclipse and only got double the mileage. And it's kind of funny when he wrote it that way, only. But that was his first try. And doubling your mileage isn't that shabby. A lot of people would be happy with 10%. The GEETs we're going to show you outside, I could show you all these pictures right now and they wouldn't mean anything to you unless you've gone through the class step by step, learning how each one of these functions tie together and why. If you don't understand all of it, it's just a bunch of pictures. We're going to go out in the yard, we're going to run an engine, we're going to take the parts off it, let you see them, let you check them out, see how they go together. Ask that person who built it. You don't have to ask me, ask them. Why? Do we have any questions while I'm in here right now? Otherwise, we're going out to the playground. We'll head on out to the playground. I'm sorry, is there a question? I'm sorry.
What first inspired you to, was it a vision, dream? What came up with like how you love this?
That takes, it took almost an hour to explain that yesterday. Okay. I was guided and told that I would be inventing many things and getting things out to mankind, and I would be a teacher. And that was in 1975. Everything that Mrs. Cunningham told me that I would do, I have been able to do. When she told me scientists would kneel down in Congress seeking my knowledge, I really laughed at her at that point, but she told me it'd be 21 years from the day I met her, and 21 years later, a German scientist was kneeling before me in the Global Science Congress. And he was asking me why the engine had ice on the muffler, where he should have burned himself. And I made a big joke out of it and made him the joke. Looking back, I don't think I should have been quite that rude. I try to fix mistakes when they happen. Some of the dealers right now have gotten on board 15, 16 years ago, lost track of me for many years because I was locked up and nobody knew where I was. My websites were down. But when they walked in those doors and said, "Hi, is my dealership any good?" I said, "You betcha it is." I didn't lose my investment. Nope. You bought the rights to be a dealer, you're a dealer. I don't take things back. Okay. So some of our dealers go back quite a few years. Nancy over here is my driver. I think she can tell you that when I make a mistake, I usually go right back to fix it. She had her hair dyed one day when I first met her. And I walked in the store, oh, she's going to hit me for this, but I got to share it. Her hair was kind of an orange. Well, I started laughing. Everybody else in the store started laughing. I felt so bad about doing that publicly. I ran down to the beauty shop and I said, hey, I really blew it. I've got to fix this girl's hair, whatever it costs. So I paid for it. And the girl says, what's your name? I said, Nancy. Nancy, I don't know, she works down the store. You're going to pay to have some gal come in here and get a two-tone hair fix. I said, yeah. Wow. Laugh at me. But I went back and I made sure she got her hair fixed professionally and it looked nice. I felt bad about laughing at somebody. She's a very pretty woman. She should look that way. I make mistakes once in a while, and when I do, I come back and apologize. The books that I have now with the new pictures, I'm not going back to apologize to anyone for the old pictures that are up there and the misinformation, because at that time it wasn't misinformation. It was the best we knew. We've learned that much more. So I'm not taking the old pictures out of the book. I'm leaving some of them in there to show you what the progression of knowledge is and why we misunderstood it back then. But we do need the input of every single person out there. And when I say that, keep in mind, there's been weeks where we've had 890,000 people go to our website. I get a lot of mail sometimes, and trying to answer 2,800 emails in a day can take the whole day. So if I don't get back to any of you right away, it could be because I'm a little tied up. As far as the students sign up, today is the last day to take advantage of that discount. Instead of $3,000, today we have dropped the price down to $2,500 for anybody who pays today. If you want to be a dealer and you know for sure you're going to be a dealer and you pay for it today, we're dropping the price if it's paid in full today to $20,000 instead of $30,000. If you want to sign up for the school and then pay after you come to the school, it's $25,000 if you put the deposit down today. If you wait until you get to the school and say, I want to be a student, and wait until the last day, it's $30,000. We're trying to get people motivated that are thinking about becoming a dealer but not quite sure. So go out there and ask all the questions you want. And remember, before they start picking up that bookstore, if you want to get magazines or copies of any of it, or full sets like Steve was talking about, you might get them today, because sometimes people wait for the last minute and come back after I'm done out there. We're going to be out there for about an hour, hour and a half. So let's go out to the playground.
Disconnect that there, middle. We're going to put it right up front.
Okay. This is Aaron Baranta.
How's it going, everybody? Grab this for me.
You can be over there.
Hey, guys.
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good. This is one of our slave engines that we're running other vehicles and other engines with. We aren't going to run it too much or anything. I'm just going to show you guys what it does actually and verbally explain it to you guys. As he starts this engine, go ahead. It's run. Now what the engine does is it takes the exhaust from here and it splits it into two heat reactor chambers. One of them is feeding my gasoline, which is refined to this engine that makes the power required to vacuum the other chamber, which has crude oil, water, pickle juice, soda, you name it.
It's all this nastiness in this.
Is that your only fuel source?
Yes.
Not to the engine. The engine has its own gasoline.
this
Oh, the
is-
engine has gas, but that's
That's the.
This is the fuel source that is provided by that hose and refined so we can make it into a viable gas light enough to be used in an LP furnace. And this is this engine. We also have.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
just a minute. I believe you need this.
Awesome.
That needs to be put on there.
All right. You want to do the honors?
Oh, it's yours.
All right.
What is that?
This
That
is
is a GEET
this is our GEET
certificate.
certification.
you close enough.
Now we get to put it on our unit here. Kind of like christening our unit here, thanks to Paul. Thank you, sir.
If you don't see that emblem on our equipment, it hasn't been checked. Now, some of the dealers are just building it specifically for you. It's not being sent to me to test. They're building an individual unit for a one-time sale. It doesn't need to be certified by us. But if you want it certified, so the GEET's standing behind it, you need to look for that sticker. Now, the next.
Now my next toy to bring aboard is our college classical, like they want to call it. Because we're in college and because we're local, we wanted to make something that just about anybody can use and still drive 35, 30, maybe possibly even 40 miles an hour. This is a 50cc engine, powering a little Huffy, and as you can see, this is the same type of reactor that's on that one. And our fuel reformer carburetor sits here, and our reformed fuel throttle control is here, which is controlled by this pedal. You want to start it? See, that's plenty loud enough. We haven't put an exhaust on it or anything. That's yet to be happening. But it's definitely working, and we definitely see a major improvement in efficiency. And not to mention, we went from 25 miles an hour after we put the engine on it to, after our modification, we went to 37 miles an hour and still getting a lot more efficiency than we were before. So,
Pure gas.
yes.
Now, you need
Right
to
now,
put
was that
one.
gas or gas? Just gas. Just regular gas.
This is regular gas. Now this one, I get to put it up front. Nice. Thanks again, Mr. Paul. Let's see if this fits in there. No longer call it a Huff. Now we call it the GEET. Break it down.
Now, these products are available. You can actually go to our website, GEET Dealers America, GEETinternational.com, or directly to his website. Why don't you give the website?
Central Arkansas Alternative Fuels is the name of our company, and you can reach our website at caafuels.com. Definitely shoot us an email. We can give you guys any information and any description of whatever product you're looking for.
And what's your next visual?
Our next one is our closed loop unit, which recycles 95% of its exhaust. Unfortunately, this was broken in transit, and our little on and off switch doesn't activate, so I can't display it running. But nonetheless, I can show you guys how it works. I have used engine oil, grease, water. I think we use some transmission fluid in this, which is mineral oil. I don't know if anybody knows that transmission oil is much different than engine oil. Transmission oil is mineral. And this right here now is our intake hose to our reactor, which sits here, gets vacuumed up through here. We have our throttle control system here. Now, this is where the magic happens because there is no fresh air coming to this. This tube right here, once plugged, recycles 95 to 100% of the exhaust and puts it back into the engine, which means this unit itself is creating enough hydrogen and oxygen to keep this thing running without actual extra air or ambient air necessities, and it's not polluting, but 3 to 5% of the normal average engine would.
So you can actually shut off the input air and it'll keep running?
Yes. 100%.
That's pretty good.
Above average, right?
Well, you can't put the sticker on there till you get me a video of it
Oh, yeah.
running. But since I've built these before and I know how they work, and you have it built right, put it on as soon as you send me the video.
I will. Amanda, you might want to put this away for now.
Your next piece.
Our next piece is actually, we tore apart because we were running it with our slave engine. So I can't display it unless I put a carburetor back on it, but it's the same unit, it does the same thing, and we've achieved 95% less fuel without no additives, no water, no gas, no nothing. Normal gasoline in the system gets ran through here and would normally get exhausted and have a big carbon waste and everything, and it's no longer needed that much. At this point in time, we're using a 33cc carburetor, which we enhanced and put back here, and what that does, that goes through our reactor chamber. Yeah, you guys can tell the difference between this carburetor and this carburetor, and thinking that this is what's normally taken to operate it, and this is what we're using applied back here to a reactor chamber, which makes an excess of 7,000 RPM on this machine, which is naturally just impossible. You don't get plus 4,000 RPM on this thing.
Okay, again, get me a video on this so we can put it up on our site.
Yeah.
And there's the sticker for it.
Awesome. I'll put this one right up top. We've actually have seen this one running all this weekend.
I've seen it running
Yes.
over the weekends. I have no problem with that, but shoot me a video as soon as you can.
Awesome. I can do
Okay?
that. No problem.
And then we have one more piece that you brought.
Yep. That's just a toy that we brought just for display purposes. This is one of our company display models that we're using to modify and to enhance technologies and show what we call the next generation. Next generation is the people that we are targeting. I'm targeting high schools, Boy Scouts, and the people who will be driving our next 30, 40 years, which makes a big difference thinking somebody who's going to buy a car in the next couple of years versus buying a normal, hey, I'm just going to go get a big V8 gas hog. Think an application that's possible where we can start changing and cleaning our world, one engine and one person at a time.
Aaron, are you going to take that to Sturgis?
Oh yeah, you better believe me and Sturgis are having some fun.
Okay, one last time here. You're going to have to send me a video on this one.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely send you a
As soon
video.
as I
on
have the
this
video, it's certified.
one. Oh, you're gonna get a video of me going 45 miles an hour down the road.
Now,
That's what you're gonna get.
One last thing before you guys, one last thing before you pick up, is we like to have the team here.
Awesome.
Bring your
Guys,
team together.
This is my brother Hyro. As an advocate for my company, and this is our president and CEO of the company is Amanda Wallace. And
Okay.
that's Central Arkansas Alternative Fuels for you. Thank you guys for listening.
Really appreciate it.
Wow. Thank you for the.
You can go ahead and start moving things out this way, and we're going to go back around as soon as we have a clear area here for generator.
A couple of things up
Now you bring one of the generators over here. Oh, okay. Can we bring the camera around? Okay.
You got plenty of camera? You may have to go around the tree. Oh, you got plenty of.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic to you here.
Thank you,
Okay,
Mr.
you
Jan.
can. Please tell us what you have.
Hi, my name is Steve Dunlap. This is Jeff Williams. We're from the Houston, Texas area. We've been working with Paul for about a year. What we have today is our first showing to the public of our 3,000 watt GEET generator, and then we also have an exact duplicate right here from the exact same manufacturer. The only difference between the two is the color and the GEET reactor. So anybody have any questions before we make too much noise? I won't be able to hear you. Yes, sir. They're both 7.5. What we want to accomplish in the next few minutes is to show you a basic carbon monoxide test to show you the difference. We've been scanning the area, and it shows there's about 230, or is that about right? 220 parts per million out here right now as we stand. And so That's what the meter says. And so what we'll do is we'll do this one first, or it doesn't matter which one y'all want to see first.
Doesn't matter.
All right, we'll fire this one up. We're going to put a load on each one of them of about half, actually a little bit more than half load. It's going to be probably 16 to 1700 watts, and that'll make the engine run a little bit harder and produce a little bit more exhaust.
I'll try this one again in a minute. Let's just try the ambient air and see what it says. This thing's not working properly, so what we're going to show you is the difference in the temperature of the exhaust. Hopefully we can get this carbon monoxide deal reset. What was the temperature over here?
250 degrees. The temperature on this one was about 250 degrees approximately.
Here's just the air outside. Let's see if we can get it to pop back up. 256 parts per million. It's not one to act properly. Let's try one more time. Let's see what we get. 259 parts per million. Okay, briefly out of this engine, I had 226, but hopefully it'll read. I'm going to try to get a reading out of this.
Here, I'll hold it down here. Do you see it?
See that? 999 parts per million. That's just a regular generator. What it puts out carbon monoxide wise. So this is just as high as it goes. Put the battery out.
To get polluted.
See the 278? And what was it before when we, I think it was 259. So a very, very small difference percentage-wise. What is that? Less than 10%. And when we did the same test 2 days ago, it was right at the same baseline. That just shows you it's safer to have, you know, in Houston we have hurricanes come through, they'll put the power out. People don't want to run out in the rain and run their generator to put gas in it. So they'll put it in their garage or under the eaves of their home. Carbon monoxide get in your home. I mean, these small engines are the #1 cause of death in small engine, or in engines, are small engine generators. So I'm going to kill this so you can, you have anything else?
Okay, this one was running about 250 degrees out of the exhaust, and this one peaked about 500. So between 400 and 500 degrees.
What was the carbon monoxide difference?
It was 999 over here and 279 over here. And the air was, I forget, 250 to 225.
We got a message that the FedEx.
So it's a pretty vast difference. This only goes up to 999, so I'm not sure exactly what that is.
Yeah, we have another meter that will probably be there when we get back that will give us a more accurate reading. So this is a device we got at Lowe's the other day. The equipment that we wanted to bring didn't come in the mail yet. So, but ultimately we're going to certify an independent lab, you know, what the actual difference is, but it's coming into at least 3 times less carbon monoxide. So, I mean, you can smell a difference just being around it.
I could smell a difference while I was shooting it.
So, anybody have any questions?
Oh, okay.
In both of them, we just started regular gasoline.
Do we have any other questions?
And what we're doing is we're trying to produce a model for the mass market.
Okay, and what's your fuel consumption compared to the standard setup?
Well, I can give you a range. We have been as low as, sometimes it's not as efficient because we're playing with it. You know, we get about the same. Sometimes we get 50. The vast majority of our work has been around 50%. We've been as high as 400%.
I didn't hear what kind of emissions he was getting. Was he getting close to zero carbon?
It's pretty close. It's about like 50 to 70 parts per million above what's already here in the ambient surrounding air.
Okay.
So this one is it's the exact same engine, it's the exact same generator, and it's peaking out at 999, which is as high as the our little device goes. So, but if you over here, what we're doing is we're using a single carburetor at the bottom, and what our idea with this design is, if you look at these other guys, they have the bubblers over here, and at this point we're running the single carburetor and splitting it into these two. We have 2 reactors inside here, and our goal is to do this so that you, if we send this out to you, you could at some point in the future have the opportunity to upgrade to some kind of a bubbler system or cartridge system where you could run something else through it. and the plumbing would already be there for you with just some minor technical work.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
You have one?
Yeah, I had a question about the other carburetor on the bottom. I wasn't sure how you were using it. Could you explain it a little bit more?
Okay. So he was pointing out the two carburetors. The original carburetor stays in the original spot, and all that carburetor is doing is governing the engine, governing. So just so when you take a load off, it doesn't over rev, and then it picks up loads when it needs to.
Okay.
This is actually the carburetor that's bringing the gasoline into the GEET reactor, the one down below.
Can you switch back off the GEET system to regular on that if you got the original carburetor on?
Absolutely. If something were to happen to the integrity of who knows, whatever, you throw something at it, or a brick hits it, or
Rust or rot up.
whoever. With this configuration, all you'd have to do is switch this tube over, and you could run it like a normal generator and take the GEET out of play. It's just kind of a backup thing that we've decided to leave in there and put in there.
So you can do a pragmatic comparative analysis on this right now by itself, right there.
Right, and that's what we've been doing to get the run times that Steve talked about.
It works just the same with all the GEET plumbing on there. If you were to run it through the regular carburetor, somehow that's some of what we've used to get our volume flows to match. Is just running, you plumb it with all the GEET equipment, and then you run it through the carburetor, the regular carburetor, and let it run, and you start opening valves to see where you're, if you have any air problems that you need to deal with. And one of the thoughts that we thought about when we actually ship it is just to have a splitter on the fuel line, so that if you do have an issue and you're having troubles, you can just flip the switch and run it through the regular carburetor. So,
You pass.
thank you, Paul.
Again, we're taking orders now on the generators. We'll have it up later today or tomorrow on our website. You can go to GEET International and it'll direct you right to their site, or they can go to, you don't have a website yet.
GEETgenerators.com.
GEETgenerators.com.
Correct.
That does it. Now we're going to move over to the other side here. We have another engine set up, which is the same type model you find for free plans on the internet, which will run on almost anything. It's right over there. Okay. Excuse me. Okay. You're on.
Yeah, this one here, this was, that was glass, Yosky glass.
I hadn't seen it, but
Paul?
yes.
You're on.
Hi, I'm Paul Janino with the GEET guys out of Reno, Nevada. Basically what you're looking at here is what we call our basic demo motor. It shows the principles of being able to run on different types of liquid fuels. I'm not going to go ahead and run it right now. What I want to do is I want to pull some of the components off and show you some of the components up close. I also have some pieces over here that I can pass around and let you guys look at. One of them being the bubbler, and you'll see that the bubbler has stainless steel wool in it, and the reason for that is we don't want any liquid going into our vapor line. So the stainless steel wool, when this is bubbling, keeps the liquid bubbles from getting into that line. But if anybody wants to take a look at that, pass it around. I also have some various rods that we've ran. You can see that some of them are a little bit different shape, some of them are a little bit different size. I got some glass and some steel. You can pass these around if you like. And this is a basic reactor made out of black pipe. You can get at your own local hardware store. This is the basic design from Paul's original. There are new reactors that are made out of stainless and other materials now, but this is what I started with. So I'm going to go ahead and disconnect some of this stuff and show you that where the rod goes in. And
Going that way. You guys want to see the rods?
I want to see the reactor.
They're there.
So I'm disconnecting the inlet vapor line that comes from the bubbler. And now I'm going to break loose the bottom 90 so I can access the reactor rod.
Where's the glass one?
Right here.
Okay. Just wanted to-
And one of the things with your test motor is because we want to test the different size rods and things, we want to be able to remove. Oh, I don't know if this one's going to have it. I haven't ran this one very long, but you can try it.
Okay. Well, here, why don't you just, right, he's got the camera right there, why don't you?
I'm getting slight reaction, but not much. This has only been ran a few times. This is a new rod that I put in when I left, oh, there we go, north. Get a better rod, north and south.
Is one of these rods better?
No, those all got demagnetized. But you can see I got a north on the top and a south on the bottom. Let's see if it reacts the other way. Yeah, see, it hasn't been ran long enough. Well, we got our south on the bottom, but the north isn't at the top. But anyways, the reason why we have a 90 that's removable on the bottom is with the test motor, you want to be able to change out your rods to test different fuels, so that you can, kind of test how things work on the GEET. But as you can see, that I passed a reactor around that's connected to the exhaust end of the motor, and you have your exhaust flow that comes out, goes down, and comes out the exhaust muffler. And I'll put it back together, but your vapor line goes in the bottom. It's going to go in the opposite direction, out the top of the reactor, through the coil, and into the intake of the motor. As Paul was explaining, the converging flows cause that magnetic field that pulls the rod into the middle of the chamber and causes that spin to break down the field. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back together and go ahead and run it.
Does it matter what point, what direction the point is in?
Yes, the point's always going to be pointed towards the flow of the fuel. The plasma reaction takes place at the back end of the rod. The GEET is acting as a carburetor on this model. I have two valves. I have an air intake valve that goes into the bubbler, and I have a fresh air valve closer to the motor to give it some fresh air.
Why is the hose that goes into the engine clean and the one that lets air in is polluted?
Well, like I said before, on the bubbler we have the stainless steel wool in there.
Yeah.
I ran this motor a couple weeks ago and overfilled it with crude oil.
Oh, okay.
And so it pretty much gunked up all the lines. I had liquid crude all the way to the motor, so I had to clean that out, but that's...
Okay, so that's got nothing to do with it.
Yeah, no, it has nothing to do with it. It was a mess up that I did. I've only been a dealer for a couple months, so I'm still working with the technology. Actually,
Paul, let me show something here real quick.
Oh, yeah,
Now, here's a compass here, and it has a north at the top end, and it has a south at the bottom end. When we turn the rod over, we now have north at the top and south at the bottom. You can turn the rod over 1,000 times. It's always going to be north up, south down. It's not a magnet. It's an aura field, just like a human being. And it tells you how long it wants to be. If you start at the top of the rod and you move down, as it gets down to the bottom, oh, you want to see it on that side. Okay, as you move it down, it'll tell you how long it wants to be. It should have only been that long for the fuel that was used.
Nope.
Otherwise, it just, I mean, as far as...
So it remembers what it consumed the last time, which isn't too bad. It'll hold that field sometimes as much as 15 years without being used. Okay, I think Paul's getting ready now to fire it back up.
It floats in there and spins and sits right in the middle of the reactor.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Oh, so there's
No, it's not a magnet because
no problem with the curve, that little
turn
cone
it upside down. It's north at the top.
getting stuck on
Oh,
the
no.
elbow.
No, not at all. No, it pulls it right up.
We don't have to have anything in there to hold it.
Nope, pulls it right up into the middle of the reactor all by itself.
Remembering the magnetic field that was in the two belts. So
Okay, so I'd like a little participation from the audience. Does anybody have a soda or water or coffee? Anybody?
You want me to put that in there?
Yeah. What do you have?
Just a little bit of Gatorade I've been drinking.
You got some Gatorade?
Yeah.
All right, if you don't mind pouring it in there, I have a line on the jar.
That makes it there.
We're just trying to get some good shots.
It's close. We'll add some more extra of something else into there. So I'm going to open up the bubbler and add some Gatorade.
I love it.
Does anybody have soda or coffee or anything else? No? I got some water. All right. We got backup water here. Just to prove that it's water. Just H2O.
There it goes.
So I'm going to go ahead and double this water since we didn't have enough Gatorade. So I'm going to put it to the line one time. Second time. Okay.
Coffee or sugar?
Got some sugar.
Yeah. Oh, you got sugar? Okay, here you go.
As you know, you never put sugar in your gas tank.
Yeah. Here we go. Watch this.
Does it work without the sugar?
Yeah, but we like our GEET to run sweet. Okay. And I am going to add a little bit of gas in there. So that'll make it about 25% gas in there.
I think that's the line.
Your reaction chamber's what, black iron pipe?
It's just regular black pipe from Home Depot.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add this to the
PT thread.
bubbler.
There it goes. You got Mr. B-Tex in there.
All right. So now I'm going to put my lid back on. Give it a good shake. Oh, close that off. I think I dumped out half my fuel. That's all right. And hopefully it'll start right up.
It will.
Put a little two in there. I bet you roll through plugs a little bit on this demo. Do you roll through plugs a lot sometimes?
Not at all.
Yeah. Not at all. Oh, okay.
Might help if I turn the motor on.
There you go, bro.
I can ask you that, never at all know.
That's funny.
That's great. Woohoo! All right, let's try that again.
It's on fire. There it is.
running on.
Yeah, ain't that? I'm not getting shortchanged.
How'd it smell?
Fucking gone. I'm serious, man. Nothing. I
There you
mean,
go. That's
virtually
the,
nothing at all. No residual, nothing in my hand at all. Dry. That's good.
But there you go. That's the.
Load you put on it, the colder that muffler gets, right?
That's really cool.
It has to be tuned exactly right. Usually on a demo motor, I've only seen it ice up a couple times, but you have to have everything. Everything has to be tuned exactly right in order to get that reaction. So, but that's your basic demo motor running on several different types of liquids.
Yes.
Gatorade, sugar, some water.
That's amazing. That is awesome, man.
So if you do decide to go to the class, you know, I don't know if I finished my story, but we're gonna be putting it on a 98 Subaru. That's our next project. But you know, it really does help to start with the smaller motors. It helps you to get the concept, get your tuning down before you actually jump into something large like that. I've learned a lot just from this little demo motor.
Now tell them the website where they can go to buy a demo engine right now.
Well, you can go to the GEET Guys deal or the GEET Dealers Association to get your local dealer. Or if you want, I actually I build these demo motors. If you want to bypass some of the steps and just go right to experimenting, this is the demo motor that I build for sale.
Okay. Thank you so much, man. Very, very impressed.
Well, congratulations. You already got your certification on there, I think so.
Well set.
Give this guy an award, man.
Hopefully next year
Yeah, it's a good dude.
we'll have some more cars and semis here like we have in the past. Since I was wiped out of all my equipment and supplies, we're starting over. And I don't think I've done too bad starting the entire company over with just 3 or 4 boxes of paperwork out of the 200 boxes that were lost, plus all the equipment. So next year, hopefully, we'll have all the other dealers here and everybody will have a toy to play with. So until next year, God bless.
All right, that's a cut, man. Good job.